Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to tell you a story of when I used to be back at the hospital, and I used to manage a hospital, and we had this lovely guy brought in, and he came up onto my acute ward, and he seemed a really nice guy, very chatty, friendly, and the staff called me to come round, and I assumed it was because he had like some prescription medication to hand over to me. So I went round to where he was unpacking his bits, and he was in his room, so I waited out in the corridor, and we were chatting away, and he was lovely. And then he was going through his bits, and he came over and handed me a package, which I assumed was his medication, and then I realised it was on my hand and ticking. So I had this 10-second lapse of bleh, and I realised he'd put a bomb on my hand. So you can imagine my thoughts went through my brain, and then I had to say to my staff, please move everybody out of the ward and away, and from downstairs wards and away. And I had to think very carefully what to do. I could have gone into complete panic mode and just dropped this thing and run. But I can imagine, this thing would have blown up and probably killed many, many people. And the verse that came to my mind back then, and it goes through my mind often over situations, is the one in 2 Timothy 1 verse 7, where it says, God's not given us a spirit of fear, but of love, of power, and of a sound mind, or some versions say of self-control. And I love that verse, and in so many situations I think about that verse, and in that moment, where you can so really panic, that's the verse that came to me. And in so many situations that we face, through this time and through any other situation, that's the verse that sits with me. I think then, what could have happened? I had to stand for over 4 hours, and all my staff evacuated the ward, and they had to call the bomb squad to come and defuse this bomb while I just stood with it in my hand, and you can imagine what went on. But God's always with us, and God doesn't give us that spirit of fear. You can imagine what would happen if in situations like that we go into complete fear. We would be in meltdown, and goodness knows what we would do. But he gives us his love. In situations, he wraps his arms of love around us. And I was just thinking about when newborn babies are born, and the parents and the grandparents, they just want to go in and wrap their arms around that newborn baby. And that's what our Heavenly Father's like with us. He wants to wrap his arms around us. Whether it's that we're facing difficult situations, or whether it's we're just sitting there and just want a little bit of love, he wants to wrap his arms of love around us. He doesn't want us to walk in fear. And I was thinking back to my Sunday school days, and we used to sing that song of God's not given us a spirit of fear. And we used to march. We used to march in one direction and go, God's not given us a spirit of fear, but of his love, his power, and his self-control. But then we used to turn around, and I always used to think, that's weird. Why do we turn around and then face the other direction? But now I think, actually, we can turn around and face the fear because God is standing with us. He stands and faces us. And I was thinking about the Footprints poem. Sometimes when our fear is too much, God carries us through it. That Footprints poem says that when we look in the sand, sometimes you can see 2 sets of footprints walking side by side. And sometimes you can only see one, and you think, oh, God's left us. But of course he hasn't left us. He's actually picked us up, and he carries us through the difficult times. He doesn't leave us at all. He carries us. When the going gets too much, he picks us up and carries us through it. And that's why there's only one set of footprints in the sand. So that verse says, God's not given us a spirit of fear. He's given us his love, and that's when he really carries us. But he's also given us his self-control, and he's given us his power. He gives us the power to keep going. He gives us the power to get up and go and to face those difficult times. You know, that song, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And sometimes when it is really tough, we can get up and we can get going. Sometimes we think, oh, but that's why he gives us that real hug and that real cuddle. And then we can get up and get going again. You know, it's never too tough because he's with us every step of the way. And that's why I think it's such an amazing verse, that God's not given us a spirit of fear, but of his love and of his power and of his self-control, or of a sound mind. You know, it's never that we're out of control. It's never that our mind's just got all higgledy-piggledy, but he's there with us every step of the way. So I just pray that you have a great day, and if you're facing tough things, just remember that he's there with you every step of the way. So have a great day. Bye.